Hi, everyone. Welcome to Grow Big TV. As you guys can see, we have a guest, and it's Juliana because Corky is sick today. So I talked to her on the phone and about an hour ago, and I heard her, Joe, I can't really talk. And I'm like, you know what? Today's not a good day for you to go on. And it's okay. It's understandable, And so I'm like, rest up. And I'm like, you know what? Let me call Juby. This is Juliana, and see if she would come on quick. And she goes, yes, I could do it. She might
Happy
leave.
first day of spring.
First day of spring, and I got my Ritas. Free Ritas. Well, we got a special guest today. And before I do the intro, let me do the 6 inches of soil, then I'll introduce our guest. So let me go to my 6 inches of soil. When everybody's coming in, and guys, this is a great guest today. You guys are really going to love this. So this is 6 inches of soil.
6 inches of soil feeds 8 billion people.
We already grow enough of all the human essential nutrients to feed everyone who's alive.
Farming is the single biggest cause of biodiversity collapse, the second biggest cause of climate change.
Soil is the most valuable resource on the planet, and we're degrading it without even realizing.
We have come to believe that money is more important than soil. That idea has to change.
Regenerative agriculture is farming that we're producing food, but also farming in harmony with nature.
You're working with nature, not against it.
The more people see it, the more that they realise that it works.
Having a regenerative agroecological system, that is surely the solution.
Soils are absolutely phenomenal in the amount of carbon they can store.
What we absolutely need now is urgent action from the government.
Until you deal with 9 retailers who have 94.5% of food sales in Britain, you're not going to have a level playing field.
Consumers have a choice. They can decide to buy cheap meat from industrial farms, or they can find farmers that really value animal welfare and the environment that we're farming in.
Dad started regen farming for the future generations to come, and that was the most selfless act he could have done.
The people who are doing this are making big sacrifices.
I think the potential is absolutely huge here.
These farms really can change the world.
It's all about the soil, isn't it, really?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So that's 6 inches of soil. That's going to be an outstanding movie to see. And actually, it's out, and I believe Netflix. So go check that out. We also have another video review to show you guys in a little bit. So, Juliana, first day of spring, you do anything special?
I worked today. I went outside for recess twice. Does that count?
So we're going to have a lot of special guests today in the chat, people that are new. So welcome and just chat away. And if you have any questions, just make sure they're all in caps. We should have about 20 people coming in from LinkedIn page today, which is pretty cool. So let me do a little quick introduction on Ethan. And well, his last name, I'm always going to have a problem with, guys, because there's different ways you could pronounce it. And it's Ethan Gyan. So, and there's another way to pronounce that, and we're going to go with that.
It's French, so Joe is struggling over here.
I'm struggling today.
Give him a Polish name, he's got it, but you know.
It's one of those days. I'm tired. So, Ethan Gyan, he's a business owner, biodynamic farming teacher, permaculture landscape designer, organic garden coach. But there's a lot more to that. He also writes, he has his own blog, One Man and a Few Gardens. And what is his about page? And this is what it says in LinkedIn. Experienced student under Dr. Elaine Ingram with the Living Food Web and a student of Matt Powers. They are the two most, I look at them as two of most important people right now in the world with soil. And Ethan has learned from them. And you're going to love this guy. You are absolutely you're going to love it, guys. He has such a great passion to what he does. He's a knowledgeable business leader, community leader, and teacher of anyone looking for ways to save the world. We have the answers, and I want to be the branches that network communities into the garden of even when we can understand the natural cycles around us organically. I work with many companies and farms to increase yields, increase immune systems of plants, build living soil indoors and outdoors, upkeep updates in the permaculture community, and networking with all the communities to create a future filled with common sense. Yeah, common sense. That's what we need a lot more in the world right now. I have worked on 250 acres to small homes and write as a hobby in the music community between venue management. I teach all ages from elementary school to experienced gardeners to see what we can become better for their strategies, for the future of the farms, small properties, indoor grows, vertical systems, and hydroponic systems. So this is going to be an awesome live, and we're going to welcome right now Ethan Gyan. Welcome in, Ethan. How you doing?
Doing very well, Joe. Thank you for having me today.
Thank you for being here. This is going to be great. So first off, let's talk about your Revo Greens. Am I pronouncing that right? Revo Greens?
Revo Greens, yes.
Revo Greens. I'm not the greatest for pronunciations right now. I'm still landing on 10 hours of sleep in 4 days, so don't forgive me. It's okay. Never mind.
I'm on the same page. I had South by last week where we had South by Southwest Food Summit, actually getting our farmers, policymakers, and political leaders to start talking about the subject of regenerative agriculture, what it means to test it, and what it means to feed our communities with healthier, more nutrient-enriched foods that are more accessible on a local level. And then I also got to see the special screening of Common Ground, which will be coming out on Earth Day, and I highly recommend everyone here checks it out.
We're going to show that a little later, another preview. I mean, the three we had, we're having so many people on this show that's lined up with that movie. It's been a great course over here. It really is. And you know what? The main problem with going on society, what I learned from Matt is everything goes halfway. We have never gone beyond and beyond about the soil. And that's what's great about Matt is there is no stoppage. We got to keep on learning and keep on learning and keep on going and learning and learning. And that reminds me of a couple of topics we're going to discuss today. And electroculture. It's been going on forever, since the 1960s, I believe, right? 1960s it was formed.
It's been around since the 1960s for research, absolutely. It's probably been around since longer, but from what we know in written down research, it's been around since that time.
And so I don't think it's starting to come back, but it's also, I don't know how far the research has gone in that. It's like biochar. Biochar has been around forever, but now it's starting to really get out there in the whole world because it's so beneficial. And talking about biochar, how much have you experienced with biochar?
Oh, I actually have to have the number of a few of our fire stations because of the natural burns I do for clients or with education lessons. Because when you do start a large fire, you have to let the fire stations know that you're doing that or get permits. But we're technically still under fire watch. It's just having that relationship with the local community so they know it's for a regenerative reason, especially for our local food forest, where we just taught a lesson on a 23-acre food forest about electroculture, how to use it with our fruit trees, and plant a little over 100 fruit trees, which was wonderful.
That is wonderful. Now with biochar too, I can't believe we have to call a fire company. That's kind of crazy.
You have to have those local communications, so that way when you make the biochar, it's just like a organic magnet. It's going to pull in water, pull in organic matter, microbes, everything around it. And if you let it soak beforehand with the inoculants that you are looking to add to the soil, then it won't draw out all the nutrients and water out of the soil. If you just add it directly, it can actually harm in the long run, because the ash from that kills spiders and gets rid of them from that environment. So then you're doing more harm than good in even the predator-prey relationship of that environment.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, are you calling the fire department to start the fire to make the biochar, or when you're applying the biochar?
To actually make the debris.
That's what I thought.
Yes.
Yeah. When you make a big fire, Joe, there are places you have to call to get permission. You can't just do it everywhere.
Especially in the city of Austin, which is a very populated city. You have to let people know before you just start a big old bonfire.
Yeah. That's what I thought you meant. I don't think Joe was getting that part.
No, I was getting it.
Oh, okay.
I mean, we're not talking about a bonfire the size of a whole house. We're talking about, something silly there, not too large. But
I need permission to use my little tiny mini solo stove that's this big, the size of a Folger can. I need permission to use it where I live. So depending on where you live and the rules in which you do, sometimes it's better to ask permission than beg forgiveness if you want to keep doing it. You do anything once.
I'll be outside back, and all of a sudden 10, 20 fire trucks come to my house. What's going on back there?
Exactly. But if you do have friends with acreage, that's where, if they have private land, you can absolutely ask them. And
yes,
I've been able to do a 20-foot tall to 10-foot wide biochar containment areas where they had so much brush fire that just needed to be burned. And we were able to make that in such a short amount of time with the permission of the private landowner.
Now, with electroculture, has there ever been a biochar in the ground while using electroculture? Have you ever heard anything?
From the research I've studied, we haven't actually applied it yet. I know personal farmers who have been doing that work and research, but when it comes to numbers on research papers and presenting that's a totally different realm. And we still need to understand the fungal to bacterial relationship with electroculture, and especially not shocking any electroculture pieces, just using the natural wind, rain, clouds, and even when you point them north and south towards our poles, the natural energy that is magnetized going into those devices naturally. If you shock them, that's actually going to kill earthworms, nematodes, and it does more damage than good. So it's all about fine-tuning those ratios. And with biochar, that's on our list. But first, soil, fungal bacterial relationship, and how it really affects everything in the ground.
Again, guys, that's the soil food web. So talking about the soil food web for people that are not here, can you talk a little bit about what the soil food web is?
Absolutely. The soil food web is just like a web of incorporation of ratios. Everybody eats something, and in physics, no energy is truly lost. It just changes form. And that's where I learned from Elaine Ingham and Matt Powers that we have to build up from the bottom all the way to the top, from microbes from our microbials that are the bacteria, the fungals, nematodes. And with Matt's new book, he shows that there's actually 5 different types of nematodes. It's so cool to understand how they eat different things in the ground and what they excrete as they're creating finer nutrients for our plants to then absorb. And as we build up, going from moles, small rodents, and we start understanding the predator-prey relationship of all animals and how they affect the soil, that's where livestock trampling large herd wildlife areas of flowers and grasslands will reseed that land. And instead of having to till, it's flattening all those nutrient-rich grasses and flowers back into the environment, so then we can recover from there as well. And everybody plays a critical role in the living soil food web to build it up. And the next step in understanding for me was from Brian McLeod, and understanding the way our molecules are negative or positive in their relationship. And if we can understand how to layer them correctly based off of cation or anion, then we can then bond the soil much more frequently. And he actually was able to save many farms from Japan, New Zealand, even here in America, from losing 80 to 90% crop loss, all the way down to 5 to 10% within a week, just from understanding the Albrecht method. And that's Dr. William Albrecht's method of how do we incorporate the Mulder's chart into our soil and make it more than just nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. How do we understand the fine tuning of a soup pot and giving the healthiest possible home for the living soil food web?
See, Ethan, I really believe there's not going to be any kind of fertilizer in the market within 5-10 years from now. I think it's going to be gone. I think it's all going to be, if anything, organic will be here, but organic sometimes is not really organic. But there's a big push for cover crops and all that stuff getting into your ground, especially in New Jersey. Cover crops are starting to really get out there, and fertilizers are starting to get out. And in other parts out west, everything's fertilized. In its in the central part of America, everything's flat fertilizer still, especially in all those farms. So I really think there's not going to be any fertilizer anymore, which is a good thing 5-10 years from now. So it's so important to learn what you're teaching. That's my thought.
I completely agree. There's not going to be the language of fertilizers. There's going to be bioinoculants, and we'll understand the ratios of how that molecular structure in the liquid or solid material will then affect the landscape. And who's living in there? Is it a bacteria? Are there fungi in there? Who's living in the inoculant or soil that we're buying? And instead of it being a sodium-based fertilizer that may be treated, we'll have bioavailable inoculants that are regenerative or organic. And that will be the changing language that I really hope for and see for our future. And you'll really see that in Common Ground. When the movie comes out, it puts it into perspective of how organic and regenerative is replacing everything, but it's a slow treatment that, John Deere actually has a organic inoculant that they're creating from algae. It's more or less similar to adding more chlorophyll inoculation in the ground. And if we can buy that from the store at HEB, Central Market, or most of our supermarkets at a much higher ratio and lower cost, that's the difference in the fertilizers that are coming out, and understanding even, what's on the shelf that we eat that still has the same molecular structure that we can dilute and create into our own natural fertilizers.
It's going to be great, guys. It's going to take a lot. We've been using fertilizer 60, 70 years. We've been tilling everything for 60, 70, 80 years. Everything's been till. And anytime you till, you're releasing carbon in the air and, all this other stuff. Stuff in the ground we should not be touching, and we've been killing everything. Just like we're in our last They say what we're on our last inch of soil now, sort of something like that.
We still, I believe, have 134 to 138 growing seasons. I haven't been official on keeping up with that number, but companies like Driscoll's, the fruit company, if you have fruit at your local supermarkets, they stated at South by 2 years ago that they had 6 to 8 years before their topsoil was gone. So depending on the region, range, and how, if it's a cityscape and they've been changing it to more cement, building, taking away the natural landscape, is probably going to be faster in creating that topsoil that is just dirt and it's not soil at that point. But in areas where they have been doing regenerative work, like Willie Nelson's ranch, or on other ranch lands that have been putting in the time and the effort, we're going to see that even leach into the natural landscapes around them slowly. And just like sourdough bread, it'll get better over time and start expanding.
Exactly.
You're making me hungry. Sourdough bread.
Now, have you, Ethan, how old are you?
I'm 28 going on 29 this year.
Now, tasting, just for example, for yourself, because I'm 54, Julianne is 25.
Times 2 maybe, but okay. No. We'll go with that. No, I'm 42, Joe. I'm not that young, but it's okay.
You told me you were 25.
And you believed me.
Yeah. The food you tasted, does it taste different when you were a kid?
Absolutely. I've noticed that natural difference growing up, but I was lucky enough to have a mother who would buy organic over commercial and GMO. So I got to taste that difference and understand growing up, it's the quality in your food that makes the difference in your lifestyle. And then seeing it, of course, drastically change, the increase of prices, it became harder and harder to even watch. In the music industry here in Austin, Texas, the live music capital, music fans or musicians suffering because their cost of food has gone so high that they can't have the backyard barbecues that they used to have or the gatherings that they used to have either. So making those available for the next generation, that's more important.
I know for me, my wife's a meat eater. I'm more a vegetable eater, but she loves her steak. It's like, honey, we can't. Yeah, same thing with Juliana. There you go. I can't afford getting steak all the time. We used to get it 2 or 3 times a week. I would just get a steak for her. Now it's $20 for a piece of steak. You go out that you want to go out once or here and there. You're talking about $60 for a piece of steak. And if you're in a little fixed income or whatever, there's no way you could. That's out. No way, you can't do it anymore. The cost of vegetables. I mean, geez, they're starting to get expensive, and they don't even taste right if you went to the store.
Exactly.
That's the reason.
That's where you're adding vitamins on top of that, even because the quality of food you're eating is lacking vitamins, enzymes, or minerals from how it's been genetically modified to how it's been grown with these fertilizers that take away valuable nutrients that allow enzymes, minerals, and vitamins to be produced from these plants naturally. And when we as Revo Greens stepped into the field, that was the goal of the owners. They wanted to replace vitamins down the line because they realized when Microgreens started as a fad a couple years back, I believe, right before the pandemic, they understood that in each microgreen, it has 200 times the capable nutritional quality as the adult plant. And because of that, you can have your enzyme, your vitamin, and your mineral in a little sustainable microgreen and be able to eat that. It's more digestible for the body, and more readily available as a fuel source. And they took it on themselves to become lab grade certified, start researching what our microgreens do as each individual one, so we can provide them as a supplement that we really hope can replace vitamins in the long run, because they've become out of control. For, let's say, a vitamin, mineral, and enzyme pill, you're spending $10 to $50 per container, and that adds up fast. While ours is only $20 to maybe $30 for a monthly cost. It's very affordable. If not, grow it at home yourself. And microgreens can be grown indoors, outdoors. You can do different varieties. And if you look at our website, you can see that we actually show what's in our vitamin capsules. And in this flash frozen powder, we label, oh, it's this microgreen. So if you want to try growing it yourself and providing yourself the essential nutrients that your body really needs at a low cost, Revo Greens is providing that, as well as educating the community on what that looks like.
So here's Revo Greens right here. Do you guys see that on your site?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ethan, talk a little bit about Revo Greens.
So Revo Greens is out in Bastrop, and the owner Brandon Higgins, he's been working on a indoor hydroponic, going aquaponic, using only organic substrates and organic inoculants to provide these nutrients the best quality that we can while indoors. So we can do it year long, of course, not have to worry about Texas weather, with our droughts or freezes, and we can continue to provide our customers with the best quality nutrition. And you can see it's pretty cool. Like, we, of course, try and market it so it looks cool to the community. We even have another website called Plantman, and that's for the younger crowd, the teens all the way to, I would say, 30-year-olds, so it captivates them and draws them in. Because it is tough to get people into something new they've never heard of, never really understood, and give them a whole class on, oh, microgreens are just like vitamins, enzymes, and minerals. So looking at our website, you can see really how optimal it is for your health when you have different varieties like Recover, Glow, Sleep, Focus, or Power. And if you want to go up to the top and go to the shop page and hit shop all, that shows exactly what we have in the pricing too. And
It's really interesting.
Isn't it an interesting idea? What do y'all think?
And as someone who has a lot of autoimmune issues, and I'm looking at the ingredients in them, it's literally just the veggie capsule and the mustard for the microgreen. There's nothing else in it, guys. So you don't always get that.
Mm-hmm.
So I like it.
One of my favorites is Revo Green Gut, and that one's out of broccoli. Personally, I find that really helps. Even before bed, if I've had a few drinks the night before, it helps my body then digest the sugars and heavy carbs much faster, so I feel better in the morning. Or if I have a heavy meal after working a long day, I'm still ready to come back with just my gut health, because that's where it all starts. Being able to, with your gut, being able to digest things and really take in what you're eating, from the meals you have during the day to the water. And even if you are taking vitamins, or I would say the mushroom capsules with reishi, with cordyceps, with chaga mushrooms, those all have substantial minerals, nutrients, and enzymes for the body that you can't get from microgreens. But to be able to digest them, having something that has all the corrective enzymes, minerals, and vitamins naturally, you can absorb those mushrooms much easier and much more frequently.
Yeah.
let's talk about some of these because I'm really intrigued by
I need all of them. Thank you.
all of them.
I'll send you my address later.
So the Revo Green Power.
Mm-hmm.
Talk a little bit about that.
Revo Green Power, that one, if you want to click on it, actually.
Okay, I just, yep. There we go.
It gives the description on our webpage, which is excellent what it does. It's a wonderful mix, actually, and this one is two different types of the radish and fenugreek. Fenugreek balances out many hormones in the body and helps our body create more testosterone. So for men, that's always a great thing in the bedroom. Highly recommend it for that. But to be able to have hormonal balance, metabolism balancing enzymes, to be able to have lipids that will balance out the blood sugars more rapidly in our body, those allow us to then be ready for the day when we are truly taking in our sugars, when they are being stored in the right places, and when our hormones are balanced in a way where our blood flow even increases and we are able to have higher libido and the higher relationship in increasing fat metabolism that then increases muscle mass. But that's hormonal based. So you can feel more powerful with just these fuel sources, but also if you have a good night's sleep, you're taking care of your body, those are things that are going to help too.
Okay.
All right, so I have a question. If we're talking about the power, for instance, it says 70 milligrams of these microgreens is in a capsule or in a serving.
Mm-hmm.
What does that equal approximately to like fresh microgreens? Because obviously they're dehydrated and shrunk down. Would that be half a cup, a cup? Like how big of a serving would you normally say somebody might have to eat to get the benefit of just this one little capsule?
I would say for us, we've noticed the relationship can differ between the microgreens, absolutely. And if you're not using a good soil, if you buy it from, let's say, Miracle Grow, it's going to have a lot less nutrients compared to your local organic soil. But we do find that it's just a half cup. That's really all you need with microgreens. It's a small amount. And that can be grown indoors in a single rack tray as well.
Mm-hmm.
But it's
absolutely
just like fodder, if you're doing a whole racker tray and then being able to have that throughout the week, that's going to cost a little bit more. And it's the time putting in either the hydroponic or going outdoors and having the rack that gets enough water on a regular basis. It's up to whoever wants to try it and if they have the time and energy to understand what they're doing too. But as a master like you could probably do an outdoors rack with this just flushing the water system, letting it dry out, and most sprouts will pop up in a week or two. So you just have to trim them and eat them.
Absolutely. That's still pretty cool though, because 30 half cups is still 15 cups. It adds up after a while. So, you know, like volume wise. So yes, you can, but this is a really cool, easy, portable travel, no excuses, benefits everyone type of product. I'm really intrigued by it.
The next one we will be working on in creating a product will be hemp, because it has the most available proteins, of course, about 10 times more than our soybeans. So being able to have more readily available protein in our body, that'll increase muscle mass, of course, and it'll increase the availability for libido to be active when you have more protein to digest as well. And we're using this currently in crop cover rotational grazing, teaching farmers to do homemade fodder, or they can grow it out in rotational grazing pastures and have high quality nutrition for their chickens, ducks, cattle, horses. And from the trials I've been doing, I have 3 different clients that have 10 to 20 herds of chickens, just small range chickens in their backyards, or at the local elementary school I volunteer at, Becker Elementary. We have been doing the rotational grazing and fodder, and from what we've seen, the feathers have become 10 times as more colorful, almost within a 10-month span. So far, the chickens have not stopped laying eggs. That's phenomenal by itself, having enough nutrients to not have a season or a few weeks where they stop laying eggs.
Absolutely.
And being able to have eggs regularly on demand, that's what's going to keep people on the market. But also, if you're not buying from your local farmer's feedlot and having dry GMO or treated Monsanto feed that is typically genetically modified, and you only get a specific amount out of that feed because it's dry feed, you can add 20 to 50 times the volume, creating these microgreen fodder or outdoor rotational grazing. And it's simple to get beans and peas from the store, and those again are nitrogen fixers or crop covers. So if you're using those in tandem, you can add to the soil life by putting different elements back into your soil like nitrogen, carbon, and sequestering that while you're having rotational grazing that feeds your animals some of the highest possible nutrients in the microgreen form.
Absolutely.
Julianne, can you read Serena's question?
Sure. Do. Hold on. Gotta find it. I was too busy shopping. I'm sorry. Let's see. Hi, Guard. I'm not seeing it. Grow Big TV. Will Revo Green recover benefit people with myasthenia gravis, a form of MD and or MS, muscular dystrophy, multiple sclerosis?
If you're growing the homemade hemp microgreens at home, absolutely, I would recommend that. And for just gut health recovery, those two I would recommend, absolutely. Try it for a month and see the results. That's really the best way to test it on the body, because everyone's body reacts differently.
Yep.
We have to know what we eat, if we're allergic to it, not allergic, and how our body reacts to it. But basically giving yourself the right fuel and setup for your body to start digesting properly, recovering properly. It's allowing your body the fuel to then have the most positive results. And naturally, with homeopathics, we find it does recover better than our standard Western medicines.
Mm-hmm. Was it Jefferson that said, "Let food be thy medicine"? President Jefferson, I think. Thomas Jefferson, maybe. George Washington. I don't know. One of our founding fathers said, "Let food be thy medicine."
So right now I have the Revo Green recover up right now.
Mm-hmm.
So let me click on that. So I think this is amazing stuff. I'm like, whoa! I can't wait to.
I see the starter pack on your screen that you're sharing.
Oh, you can't see it?
No, I see the starter pack.
Okay, hold on. I gotta go back, I guess.
So I said I'm running you on my computer. Look, guys, I have two technologies at once. As long as I don't touch my phone, we're doing all right.
Okay, now do you see it? Recover?
Yes, there it is. Perfect. Nope. Now we lost you. Now it's us big. There you go.
So Ethan, talk a little bit more about the recover.
Well, that's great for the muscles and joints, especially. And as someone who works outdoors, I have to absolutely recover my muscles on a regular basis while having enough protein. And with our pea microgreens in particular, we find that they help with peptides that prepare compounds for proteins in particular, and that helps with anti-fatigue effects, and that with the bioactive constituents and the availability of please bear with me, I'm trying to remember the dietary fibers in our peas in the recover That helps with anti-inflammatory response in the DDS model, and it also helps with protease inhibitions as well. So it's a great product that will recover, start taking away inflammation so the body can naturally recover while having very rich proteins, and it also has starch and amino acids that provide the muscles the recovery they really need, similar to having krill oil or even fish oil. Having those omega-3s and having those amino acids available for your muscles will then allow them to recover and relax naturally, because that's the oil that helps our bodies really recover when they've been stressed all day long. You've been burning the sugars in your body and they've been worn thin. So having the recovery of protein, starch, and essential amino acids in there to recover naturally, it can even help reduce insulin levels from some of the research studies we've seen. So there's truly amazing effects from this product.
Wow. I absolutely love this.
I could probably look at every single one of these and ask you 1,000 questions on each one of them for the next hour and a half. So this is not for me.
No worries. This is just
I love it.
We actually, at the elementary school, with Becker Elementary School, we do have some microgreens going there on a regular basis. So that way, as the only school in Austin, Texas that is selling our veggies back to the cafeteria so they can be sold, they can be eaten by the students. That's
I love that
relationship that we want to provide great quality nutrition with the microgreens, where other veggies like tomatoes, cabbage, okra, we have even our herb gardens that are used in the salads at the elementary school. It feeds our students, and bringing back their experience of nutritional quality in their food, that's the only way we can teach them as they get to college. Why doesn't it taste like it used to?
Yeah. And I will tell you, as a mom of 3 kids, if you can get your children to grow it, they're far more likely to eat it, because they grew it, they took care of it, they planted it, they nurtured it. Maybe they may not, but in general, they will definitely are much more willing to eat anything that they grew or had a part of growing. So I love that about the school. Or I grew that, so I want to eat my friend's vegetable that my friend grew. I didn't have to grow it, but Sally or Joe grew it, so I want to try it because they did it. So, use positive pressure for good, right? Peer pressure for good.
Always for the kids, and they need a little bit of it from time to time.
Yes. Some folks are asking in the chat if there is a discount code for Joe by any chance.
Anybody who clicks on the website gets 15% off their first order, I believe, or free shipping. So if you go to the website, there is already a discount that we've provided.
Fantastic. Thank you. Love it. Retail is for suckers.
That's what we try and tell people.
I appreciate that. Good looking out. But it's super.
And
could you see that question down below or no?
The gut health?
Will Revo Green gut benefit people with chronic intestinal pseudo-obstruction, SIPO?
I believe so. And that one is the...
I feel like it's one of those things where we're not doctors, nurses, or medical professionals, but it can't hurt. I don't know that it can make it better, but I feel like it definitely can't hurt.
Give me a second to check my notes real fast, because our broccoli, there is actually, from our research studies, specifics that it does very well. So the bioactive compounds in Brassica ocellaria and the microgreen sprouts, we found the pectin from them triggers immunoodulating effects in vivo 3, helps with glycosinates, with molecular structure breakdown for the body, helps with genetic availability, which if you are using chaga mushrooms, those are building blocks for our DNA and recovery of DNA. So having something that can help break down chaga, improve the quality of what the DNA is being absorbed in what you're already eating so it can become better. And if it, with the chaga, it's improving your DNA structure, that's going to go hand in hand. And knowing how to use those, I always recommend going to a certified herbalist or knowing a doctor with a herbal PDR, physician's desk reference. And you can actually buy them online. It's an herbal reference from how to use, how to find, and what the benefits from our herbs are on a Western level. And we do teach nurses that in the first 2 years of nursing school, but often it's lost. So if you do have a doctor that uses an herbal PDR, you understand they're using Western and Eastern to then give you a really good recovery process instead of just half doing it in the long run and not giving you the fuel for your body to really recover. But with broccoli as well, we find that it does have, let's see, from purple broccoli in particular, it helps with antioxidant and even anti-cancer properties. And from Brassica, it can reduce the risk of colon cancer. But those are things that, as masses, and usually sugars are being built up and then stored in places like saturated fats, they don't have a place to go. So as they keep building, they're going to find places to just block up in the long run. But if you have something that helps digest, make available enzymes for the body to process what's in there, you'll have a less likely chance.
Love it.
But absolutely, with anti-inflammatory, oxidant and the antimicrobial aspects and the essential minerals, we find with the phenolic compounds and the glycosinates, it really helps with digestion. So I would say give it a shot, and also ask your doctor too, because there are times when you may be allergic to radishes or broccoli. And if you are, that's again something you have to be aware of.
Absolutely.
Now, when did you start getting into microgreens? Like, what was your turning point to start? Yes.
I was invited into the company 2 years ago as the soil specialist. So I'm helping them with their inoculants and soil to make the most organic and regenerative, so we can have the best potential of nutrients, enzymes, and vitamins going from the soil into our microgreens, because it's a whole process. Without one cycle, you can't have the other. Without the living soil food web and the Molders chart present, we would only be doing partial work and partial credit. So making it lab certified, testing all these microgreens so our community can understand, our farmers can then understand, and have clear evidence on a research level of what they are providing their kids, their family, or even their animals, that can give them more education down the line, even if they start growing. That's what we always aim for. Changing this method of and model of vitamins, that if you do look recently in the past 3 years especially, Bayer's been buying up a lot of our vitamin companies, which is interesting to see.
You say interesting, I say terrifying, but okay.
Yes, very terrifying. But when was the first time you had microgreens yourself? Was it 2 years ago, or was it way before?
I've grown up with microgreens in my diet for a long time.
Oh, that's
but
awesome.
I had no clue the nutritional quality and effect it had on individuals until 2-3 years ago, when I started seeing it more as a fad, and then being invited in by the company. I was blessed to be with this family who wants to make it their mission to change health for the whole world.
Yeah, I've always thought, well, it's good for you. You should try it. That's all I ever heard. That was it.
My kids think it's fancy. If you take the microgreens and cut them and put them on your food, all of a sudden their food is fancy and they feel like pinkies up while they're eating it. It's the funniest, and they taste so much sweeter. So even if you have someone who doesn't want to eat broccoli, they will eat the broccoli microgreens because they taste delicious. And it's just the funniest thing to watch my girls get the scissors out and cut them and then sprinkle them on. It could be Kraft macaroni and cheese. It's fancy now, like, and it's just the funniest thing how all of a sudden everything looks so upscale and high quality, and all you did was put some microgreens on top. And there's no lettuce on the shelves during the year that we shall not talk about. We'll just grow microgreens and just put salad dressing on the microgreens and eat that and call it a salad. So my kids actually discovered hydroponics and microgreens and all of that during lockdown, and it's been a wild ride to watch them. Like, Mommy, I want this, a $25,000 like hydroponic setup. I was like, try again. And then we found a pickle jar and a pool noodle and put it here, and away they went. And it was, we've done so many different iterations, but you don't necessarily have to have anything fancy to do it, guys. Like, you can be as fancy as you want, but like Ethan's saying, it's more about the quality of your nutrients in your soil and less about the pretty containers and how you're doing it. So,
so what other ways would people use their microgreens? Like on a sandwich, what other kind of ways would they eat them?
Well, in the long run, I would love it if we had annual vegetables as microgreens for our front lawn, or other things that we consider bougie or high-end that, as we change the perspective, may just become more normalized and part of our everyday life or part of our everyday properties. And being able to use those microgreens as a sandwich, in gumbo, traditional fried rice, you can use it in so many different dishes to add nutritional quality. And then knowing what's in that dish, what it provides. Is it a potatoes-based dish with a lot of starches? Is it something that has a lot of, like in pasta, you're going to have a lot of carbs and a lot of sugar? How are you going to add a fuel that helps you process it, put it in the right place in your body, or help you release it in the best possible way?
Now,
with even with Revo Greens, we just started doing Electroculture as of last year too. We're using that in the hydroponics, so we can see the effects of the microgreens, and it's actually increased the time that they sprout. We never have any sickness in our sprouting anymore, and it's changed the shape of our business, just adding that into our grow house.
So, because I don't know how many people know about microgreens, tell them about like how do you start them, to how long they take, and how do you, when you cut them, like how far do they come back? Just tell us like a little bit of everything, like a little cycle about microgreens.
Well, for the home user and anybody that's interested in growing especially, there's different ways to start your microgreens, and you can do it in a small tray with either, of course, bought or just asked for from your local nursery. Do they have seed trays? And starting a few seeds in each one of those seed trays, I would recommend 3 to 10 max, depending on the variety of microgreen. Cucumbers, beans, and peas are going to be bigger in their seed than a carrot or dill or fennel. And always check the back of those seed packets. They're going to tell you the germination rate, how long it takes for that little sucker to germinate. And that's when you want to get your sprout. When it's in that first 1 or 2 to 4 leaf stage, that's going to be the best nutrient potential right before it jumps up. And it depends, of course, on the variety, but usually 1 to 2 weeks is when you're going to see those sprouts pop up. Watering them heavily and then just draining it, if you're doing a soil method, I find to be the best. And letting the soil completely dry out before flushing it again, and making sure you're allowing the soil to be able to not be over soaked, drowned out, and actually cause anaerobic bacteria if you're constantly washing and flushing that system out. And you can also very easily do it on a towel, a piece of fabric, and spray the inoculant on that directly in a small grow house. And you don't even need soil sometimes. You can grow it out of literal fabrics and other materials. So soil is just a great home for nutrients, but your sprouts can grow on a piece of paper, on paper towels. And as long as you keep them in a darker environment, the roots of our plants are very much like our intestinal organs. They like to be a little bit wet, but also dark. And the water, as you're watering that environment, it's going to act as the circuitry, connecting all the nutrients, silicates, and bonding them together. So that way your bondage rate increases when you're watering. But of course, never overdoing it is what I recommend.
Now, can you freeze microgreens?
Yes, you can freeze them, or I recommend just a little bit of salt water after you've trimmed them. Trimming them down to the base is best, and they usually, I don't like personally going a second round. I would rather add all those roots to my compost. Make sure that can be a part of my soil structure again, either outdoors or break it down so I can start creating a better soil. And just like sourdough, using the bacteriums and fungi so they keep getting better and better when you want to reuse that pile of soil. Or you can also just allow them to grow one more time. I would only recommend one more, just because each time you keep developing those little microgreens, it's going to try and become the adult faster and faster because it's stressed out and it's not going to intake as many nutrients as you go further and further down.
So my daughter's very first microgreen planter was a box from Dollar Tree, plastic box. It was like this big on the top, maybe this deep. And my husband took the lid off and they cut 2 slits down the middle of the lid. And we folded a paper towel in half and put it down, and we filled the bottom of the box with water, and we put the lid upside down with that paper towel, put like an inch of soil, and we put the seeds on it, and she sprayed it one time, and capillary action watered it, because with little kids, they either want to forget about it or love too much with water, and it watered itself perfectly. It wasn't too wet. It wasn't too dry. It was like almost set it and forget it. And like you said, cover it up with, could be even just a piece of paper. And it literally cost $1 plus a paper towel and seeds. And I don't necessarily love the plastic part of it because microplastics and whatever, we can get into that conversation later. But it was so easy and so simple. And like the kids' eyes got huge. So microgreens, there's definitely a really low cost entry point if you want there to be. You can make it as expensive and high end too, but you could definitely, and at that point we didn't even have any nutrients, we just used water. Imagine when we have the right stuff, you know, the right nutrients, the right organic additives, or the soils, like you said, how much better they could be. But it can be really simple, guys. Like we don't always have to from the resident overthinker, we don't always have to overthink everything. So I say, everyone here, I challenge you, make a video, try it, get it together. Add those worm castings to your hydroponic microgreens. Let's go.
And I challenge people to recycle and use even a milk carton, or let's say a fruit carton. Those can be lined with a piece of paper towel. You can fill them with soil, and you can more often if you're using what's naturally around you instead of throwing it away and adding to our plastics trash area where we constantly dump.
Yes. They were growing in the yogurt cups from school because the school kept delivering food to the house. So it was, what are we getting today? What can we grow in today? So we had all kinds of trash everywhere with like experiments growing out of it just because it got them excited. So we learned a lot.
So is there a way to save seed?
Yes. When it comes to seed savings, especially, we want to allow some of those microgreens to then, of course, grow into adulthood, stress them out into flowering and collecting the seeds from the ones you want. And that's from heritage seeds, especially. Each seed's going to have heritage genetics, and the more compromised it is by genetic modification, the less of its heritage genetics, which are its natural enzymes, mineral, and vitamin production that keep the plant at its healthiest, most formidable, and best stasis. If we have broken DNA in any seed, it's not going to grow properly. So heritage seeds especially, you can even go to the local farmer's market, ask around who has good seeds, have fresh produce, and look around and see, oh, is that tomato really good? I may want to try making microgreen seeds out of this specific tomato because it looks so delicious. Trying out what's at your local farmer's market and recycling the seeds that you normally get if you're going local is one of my favorite ways to do that if you're seed saving. Because then if you know that farmer, you know the seeds that they've been using, you can ask to seed save with them. You can ask to start taking their seeds off their hands, and they may even pay you to start seed saving for them and be a part of their farm, be a part of your local community, and being able to save the seeds that we may want to carry for further generations because of how it grew that season, how many fruits came out of it, how high the nutrient levels were out of the adult plant, or even the microgreens in that area if you try those microgreens first. But of course, test. If you want to test the nutrient levels, you got to have a specific lab, or a specific device that will test the nutritional quality of that plant matter. And you can do that yourself or, again, lab grade. And just being able to check, you can guess as much as you want. You can look and you can visualize, you can taste, but actually knowing the information on a piece of paper that's been tested will bring you a sigh of relief when no one can question it.
And about seed saving, just for anyone who might be watching, if you buy, let's just say, 1,000 grams of 1 pound package of, let's say, basil microgreen seeds, you can totally tease 2 or 3 of those microgreens out and put them in your garden and grow a whole basil plant. A cabbage microgreen will grow you a whole cabbage in your garden later too. So you get a better deal when you buy them as microgreens as seeds, but you can totally take your kohlrabi seeds and plant them outside individually for your crop. But when you plant them that close together and eat them that small, that's what you're getting a microgreen. So not everybody knows that, and it's kind of like common sense, but at the same time, there's nothing fancy about microgreen seed other than sometimes you get a better discount in bulk.
Ginger Ninja says, I never seen an electroculture with hydroponics. I would like to see the setup. I just started using electroculture last year and I loved it. So what kind of setup
Also
do you
a question before that about adding this to Earthworm castings before we move on.
Yeah. Okay. I had to go back for that one. Let me go back to the...
Someone asked if you can add this to Earthworm castings. Absolutely. Yes. And it's great for Earthworm castings, especially just after trimming, adding the roots. Our earthworms will keep most of the beneficials and for both bacteriums and fungi as they travel through their gut digestional tract. Our earthworm's gut grinds and destroys anaerobic bacteria. So absolutely throw anything into your earthworm castings. And that way, if we want to, we can move on to electroculture and show some of the ways we can add this electroculture to earthworm castings, to our hydroponic setups, and even outdoor setups as well.
Okay, now back to Ginger Ninja. I never seen an Electroculture with hydroponics. I like to see the setup. I just started using Electroculture last year, and I loved it. So, you know what? Let's go back. I want to answer that. I want to go back to that question a little later, actually, because I want to get through some of these other questions. And Serena asked another question, but I did not see it. I did not see it.
She was asking some medical questions, and Jay referred her to the medical disclaimer on the RevGrow website for that. And I think Ethan covered it with the finding your herbalist that has the book you mentioned.
With a local PDR, absolutely.
Yeah.
Or even physician, doctor, if they have your local PDR, have information and knowledge on herbalism, contacting a professional and adding that to your nutritional plan would be the best thing to do, so that way you can have a second opinion as well.
Right. Absolutely.
Let me see. I don't know what. Is there a pump? Be sure strain the castings tea. I don't know.
Yeah, it's because I was saying adding it to your hydroponics, because Juliana only does Kratky method. I don't have a pump, so my brain's not thinking. Yeah, no, don't go putting dirt in your hydroponic pump system. Bad idea. Like I didn't clarify that. I apologize.
You need a filter screen or a micron filter screen. If you have a hydroponic with a catch tray where it catches the water, and if any soil gets in there, having some filter screen is best.
Yes.
Originally, where did you buy your seeds at? Like, if you bought, like, where do you guys buy them? Like, where's the starting? Where would you recommend people buy seeds?
How about you, Juliana? Do you with the kids locally?
With the kids, we've been buying them. Was it True Earth seeds? That's where we've been getting them. I don't know if there's a better location or a better option. I think it's True Earth seeds. I have to look. Is where we get ours when we do them. True Leaf. That's what it is. True Leaf Market.
True Leaf is very popular as one of the seed dealers out there. Absolutely. And
what
you
is
can't go big company like that. I personally like to recommend and looking around at your local plant nurseries, seeing the connections they have with the local community. If they have a local seed dealer, then absolutely asking that local seed dealer to start a connection so you can even start making microgreens yourself. It is a business idea that if you sell to a restaurant or local supermarket, can be $300 to $500 a week. So that's always an option for homeowners to start their own personal side project. But the local farmers market, that's where people are growing seeds regularly, and they're going to give you the best deals on seeds if you're willing to work with them and also help get seeds. It takes a little bit of work to get some. In this day and age, if you just order everything online, it becomes so impersonal that where's the relationship in understanding genetics of those seeds, what they look like or what they even taste like? You're just guessing by trusting a company and what they're telling you.
100%. I was seed shopping while the world was closed, so I apologize. I just have it.
So
I'm with you, the small guy, all day long when you can get it and where you are.
What kind of microgreens would be good to start? Easy cost, regrow, most people can do it.
I would say beans and peas because they are usually the cheapest. That's what's out there. Sometimes grass, like wheatgrass, catgrass, those are always good too. Dills, carrots, those are very easy to regrow if you do a short time basis. Radishes are going to be the fastest if you're growing them into seed completion and collecting the seeds, because it takes so quick for those guys to germinate, become an adult, and go to seed, especially under heated conditions. If it's in a climate that's too warm, it'll go to flower much faster than even producing a radish sometimes.
What's the hardest microgreen to grow?
Oof. Right now, goodness.
Popcorn was the hardest one we struggled with.
For
Which could
me,
be user error, but
what kind of popcorn?
grocery store popcorn.
Yeah. Usually they bleach or cook out all the microbes, so its ability to germinate is almost 5% to 0%.
It was non-GMO organic, to be fair, but you know.
And we can only hope sometimes, yes.
Right.
And that's, again, if you've got soup beans at the store that they're selling in those big bags for $4 or $5 a piece, that's really low affordable cost for 200-300 seeds just to start.
We did some of those too, just for funsies, because again, you know, got to keep them busy.
Mm-hmm.
Now, can you dehydrate microgreens?
Yes, you can, but as you dehydrate, it's taking out things as well. Whenever you have a reaction, either thermally, dehydrating, freezing, there is a little bit lost in the equation because the hydrogen molecules are having to bond to something else or change their form, pushing out other molecules as well. And that's typically how you start using the natural electromagnetism that these plants provide as well.
Just to let you know, we have the best mods. They are on everything. Everything you're saying, they're pumping up information. Boom,
Your
boom.
co-host isn't too bad either. I'm just saying. What?
How long will microgreens last?
If it is just usually in a plastic baggie, it can last a few days to a week, but to make them last longer in a small tray of salt water, and not too much just salt, just a little bit, that's what I find keeps our vegetables, microgreens in a stasis that works best in the fridge.
Cool.
Let me see. Get some other question.
So I have a really random nerd question, just because you were talking about purple broccoli, sprouting broccoli. Do you know if you freeze dry it, does the purple leave, like when you cook it, will it come out when you freeze dry it? Because it's freezing, it's not cooking. Does it work that way?
It's still partially purple.
Cool.
Color still sticks with things after it's flash frozen. So yeah, you can tell the difference between the microgreens in those capsules by color and by smell. When you open the capsule, you'll be hit by the smell of that fresh microgreen, and it's intense for some people.
I like it. I like it.
Now you
we were growing the green or the purple beans last year, and the kids thought it was so funny, like the magic trick to put them in the frying pan and watch them turn green as they're cooking. Like, poof, they're green.
You mentioned microgreens. You mentioned microgreens outside before.
Mm-hmm.
Are you talking about just putting them on a table and having them outside? What happens if it pours? You need to cover. How does that whole work?
You can do it outdoors with a couple ways. I usually like to do a tent over them with PVC pipe, and that way if you want to have an enclosed area to protect it from rain, all you need to do is put a tarp on top with a fan inside and even a small mister on the inside as well to keep them hydrated. But if you do it outdoors on a table, on top of the roof, you can grow them practically anywhere, but it depends on how often you're watering, how the soil is currently. If you just add some soil on top after putting your seeds on top, if you're going to sow them into the ground and actually put some work in, there's different ways you can incorporate those microgreens. But I love just cover cropping by hand casting or casting by hand and just throwing it out, covering it with a little bit of compost, and then you'll see beans, peas, carrots, and most of our microgreens just pop up within that week period. But most of my clients do also have living soil after being with me for at least a year, so we can throw out most seeds and they'll just take to the ground.
So another thought for outside, Joe, is if you are using like the strawberry containers or any of those plastic around the house containers outdoors, you can put an overflow hole on the side of whatever that container is, so the liquid can never rise above a certain level, so you won't ever flood your stuff. It can rain in it if you don't have a cover, and it will go out the side before it floods your area.
And what's the difference between sprouts and microgreens?
It's the same word for two darn things that are just the same thing. It's just like how we call permaculture, regenerative agriculture. We have different names for what we're doing, but it's all the same pizza, just with different toppings.
You know, it's a couple years ago, I seen a lot of people starting microgreen businesses.
Mm-hmm.
How is that really profitable?
As I said, usually depending on who you're selling to, it can be 300 to 500 a week, which can be very profitable, or just pay the rent. If you're a student that needs to start paying rent and have a side business to cover your rent, and then have time to do school, time to actually work on your homework. If you're just taking 5 to 10 minutes out of your day to check on this microgreen setup.
And what do you like to use for your soil and grown media?
For me, I like cocoa core, earthworm castings, using different silicates from the Mulder's chart, and depending on your region, always look at what's going to be most affordable. Are you going to have certain soils that you can buy? That way you can test them and see what's in there with the cocoa core and find silicates that are in our Mulder's chart method and balancing out those ratios. And for each microgreen, always look at your bricks meter. Some are going to be a little different than others and have to start a certain way than others. So sometimes you need a bit more of the colloids and clay heavy elements. One of the most popular ones right now, I know a lot of companies out there are using, oh goodness, what are we farming from Canada, from the peat moss?
Peat moss, the peat bog, sphagnum peat.
Yep, peat moss is really what most people use right now on the market, I've seen, and we've replaced it with cocoa core in finer shavings, so that way we don't have to worry about it. Just seed soils from most companies are really good to start with, especially if they have the little white pellets as well that dry out the soil a lot faster.
Perlite. Yep.
The perlite and the peat moss, a little cocoa core, and just a little bit of organic soil. You can do it at home pretty easily, but if you can get a good deal from a local nursery, work with your farmers to see what they're doing and even teach them about microgreens so they can use it with their cattle. You can start that relationship to start getting good soil on a regular basis.
So, well, Terry just said, what do you think of Back to the Roots commercial seeds? We got one with fish tank. I don't know what that means at the end.
That's probably a company with an inoculant out there, I'm guessing. And
Back to the Roots is a company that has a lot of, like, I have a mushroom kit and it comes with everything in it, and you pull it apart and do it. So this is a fish tank that has a fish tank on the bottom and you have plants on the top. I've seen it. Home Depot sells a lot of them. And sometimes you'll have like a dwarf tomato in a jar or a mini sunflower in a jar, and it gives you everything you need. So she's asking about, what do you think about their commercial seeds and the one with the fish tank?
The commercial seeds, I'm guessing they're seeds that they sell?
I'm assuming the ones that come with the kit, yes.
Yeah, just kit, yeah.
They're probably... Thing is, with a lot of our seeds, if they are with the higher companies, they've been sitting around for a while. They've lost a lot of the microbial activity that's kept them in stasis, or when they come back will be needed to then start germinating. So the longer those seeds have sat, less likely it's going to germinate. And I always recommend with any company, try it, see how it works, because that's going to tell you. And just look for the reaction you get from those seeds, and it'll tell you.
What I know about that company in particular, two things I like is, one, it's organic, so at least it's got that going for it. And then two, they have a buy one, give one. So if you follow the directions on their package, you can submit like a child's school, for instance, an elementary school, and they will send the teacher you name to that school exactly the product you bought for free.
That's
that's kind of a cool option.
That is really cool. For here in Austin, or in other areas like cities of Denver, New York, they do have seed saver areas where there's usually with the local library or with the even mayor's office, you can find those seed savers and get free seeds from your local library that you go pick out and you're able to test as well. Depending on your local nonprofits, if there's local gardens and local kids gardens, they also have local seeds that they are selling, giving away, or just donating. So checking
100%.
I love checking in with the community and always push that above commercial products. Their seeds probably do work and are probably good, but when it comes to great, there's the regenerative local aspect that always is going to be better.
100%.
So I just went back to what you sent me by email, and it said plants, man. I don't know if it came up on your side yet.
Yeah,
that's the same company. We're Revo Greens as well, but this is rebranded for the younger generation, trying to get those kids into it.
Okay.
It's based off of that 70s show with the language of, hey man, let's do some plants instead of vitamins, and trying to make it a little bit of the hippie homeopathic, but with the certification that this will actually do something good for you. Because we did find it hard to revolutionize greens with Revo Greens. While with Plants Man, the name just says literally do plants man.
Do you guys see that on your side by any chance?
Yes.
Okay. So
does it say, hey man, plants, whatever problem? Yeah.
Okay, this is page 2.
This is part of our pitch deck, yes. And with our pitch deck, we diagnose the problem, what's in the community, what's lacking in our vitamins, and how the microgreens will be able to overcome that problem given time.
Okay, it's page 3. There we go. Rise. I love these stats and everything you're getting out to the public here with kids. Are kids responding to this?
Yeah, we're seeing 20 to 30-year-olds really start buying it as of this year finally. But I think regenerative agriculture has helped push that movement, as well as the cost of foods. And if you can have something that is really good for you, that doesn't take a lot of time to eat when kids are on the go so much, they have something that tastes good and serves their nutritional health as well.
And that's what I just saw here. Target audience, millennials who view wellness as a lifestyle.
Mm-hmm. And this is our pitch deck for anyone really interested in understanding on a deeper level what our business model has been, how we've affected the community. So if they really want a one-on-one and understand how to create their own business, that's what Revo Greens does. And we are trying to tell people just to do plants, to try them out, and even functionally use them in a business model so you can help serve your community. We want to provide the research so others can really take it out there. And that's going to be that's all the keys that we've gone through, of course. And we're going to be one of the new tests that we're going to be adding as of this year. I don't believe it's on there, and that's last year in particular. They're going to be testing for endophytic bacteria if they are in the microgreens, because if they are flash frozen with endophytes, those are probiotics that then are being served in the microgreens as well.
Wow. This is so impressive.
Mm-hmm.
See, I just want, this stuff should be out to the public so much more. Now, I'm like I said, I'm 54. if I wasn't researching this stuff, I would have no idea what a microgreen even is. You would have to come about it some way. Just like, for example, I used to be a New York, well, I still am a New York Met fan. Over the years, it's totally different where I don't see anything anymore. I would really have to go look into it. It's not in front of your face.
Exactly.
This stuff needs to get in front of people's faces somehow.
Exactly.
Food is our medicine, and we have to start acting that way.
And just understanding the molecules in each plant, how they're made up, grown from the soil, and what forms they take is all ratios that we can understand in natural health. Being able to use those for both our health or even making a bioorganic fertilizer or animal feed from that structure, if we can break it down and reuse it, that's always going to be more beneficial. And same with electroculture. That's something that's just coming back, and I'd love to discuss next if that's all right, so we can teach people about what electroculture especially is.
Okay, electroculture. So we're on an electrical.life page.
Mm-hmm. And that's the website we have for the upcoming documentary next year that'll be coming on Electroculture with Derek, who is running the project. If you scroll down, you'll be able to see him. We've been making headlines in what we've been up to because of electroculture being a fad, of course, and being easily talked about and also relatable to signals and harmonic frequency. But we've been able to start doing the research in working with farmers all across the world so we can see their devices, we can test their soil, and then show people what electroculture really does instead of just seeing it again as a fad like microgreens and not really digesting or understanding what goes into this really refound technology. And with electroculture, if you do want to scroll down, there's a wonderful video we can check out so people can start understanding it.
Okay, I'm going to play that right now. Here we go.
It doesn't look like there's sound. There should be sound on that guy.
Not playing.
Yeah, there should be sound playing over it if you want to go back. Or even go to the YouTube page for it.
Okay, hold on.
It would be down bottom right.
Let me get back to sharing this. Hold on. Anytime you move forward or something on a page, it doesn't stay on it.
That's all good. I can explain while you're doing that what electroculture is. Okay. It's understanding the simple method of applying atmospheric pressure, wind, the natural ions and cations in our cloud cover, in the natural rhythms and signals in our world to start being utilized in our soil. And it is an imitation of rainwater, that rainwater is being shot constantly while it's up in our atmosphere. It's taking atmospheric pressure, and the magnetic charge of our water is going to be higher. And we see that when everything goes into bloom after, all of our plants look much happier and healthier because that higher magnetic frequency is bonding our cations and anions in the soil. Some of our anions include the phosphorus, sulfur, nitrates, even chloride, boron, and molybdenum. And then having our cations, the magnesium, calcium, iron, and potassium, those are going to bond more frequently because you've added a magnetic charge to then capably bond those elements so much more rapidly. We've found it can increase yields from 100 to 300% because of that, because you're increasing the fruiting rate by 25 to 50%, or you're even increasing the growth rate by 50 to 75% as well.
Joe, did you see Jay's message? Not to interrupt. He said, Jay said, your bottom left under the scroll bar saw the sound bar was off.
Okay. Do you guys have this? Okay, see if you guys hear it now.
The first patent was filed for a little-known concept called Electroculture, a simple method of boosting plant growth that could single-handedly end world hunger. This little system was successfully tested all over the world, harnessing the atmospheric free energy that's all around us. These methods proved to increase yields by up to 300% and eventually eliminate the need for toxic pesticides and fertilizers. The only problem was electroculture never made it into the school books. Fast forward to 2023, it was only a matter of time before this revolutionary concept bubbled back to the surface and took its roots once again.
If we were using electroculture and understanding everything is frequency and harmony and balance, then we could have as much food as we want. It's like we can have an abundance. When they tell you that there's a food shortage, they're just making stuff up
war in Ukraine.
so they can put you into fear. But basically what you're doing is you're creating an atmospheric antenna to harness the energy of the earth so that you can boost your soil and your plants. You'll start to notice you'll have more bees, you'll have more birds, and you won't have to use pesticides, you won't have to use fertilizers. What you're doing is you're bringing back the electrical charge. So we are electrical beings, and these plants are also, our beautiful plants here are also electrical beings. They have sap, right? The sap is their blood, just like we have our blood. And what happens is when you put this copper or brass antennas near them, now what you're doing is you're enhancing the sap that is always flowing through the plant so that the plant can get more nutrients and live a healthier life.
This documentary sets out to tell the stories of pioneers from all over the world who are working together to bring electroculture back into the public conversation. With your help, we can bring electroculture out of the shadows and get this information to the people who need it most. So far, we have launched the website electroculture.life as a free information resource. And our first video about electroculture is now currently the most viewed video on both BitChute and Rumble regarding this topic. To support our mission, you can purchase our guide to electroculture as a downloadable PDF or physical booklet. All proceeds raised will go towards funding the Electroculture Life documentary project. Thank you for your help, and as always, stay electric.
Love that. And it's amazing that we're just looking at this now again after so many years of just throwing it away.
Exactly.
And
Technology with free resources now finally bubbling back to the resource. And Derek did a great job explaining that for the people. He's, as the director and producer, is making a great documentary, and as researcher for the project, providing that research of how does frequency and harmony relate to geometry is how we're going to really figure out and tap into how much, how often, what types of antennas can be best used, and even down the line, understanding how stones can be antennas or how different plants are antennas as well by their geometric shapes and figures.
All right, so I have a question. If I'm wrapping the coil around something, there's no actual electricity being applied to it. It's just like in the air. Is that how this works?
It's all atmospheric. It's all wind. It's rain. It's the clouds that have a higher magnetic charge because their bondage of water is higher. So in foggy areas, you can use them there. And the best spiral you want to create is dependent on your hemisphere. If you're in the north hemisphere, just follow the way your toilet bowl goes on the way down. And for us in the north hemisphere, that's clockwise, while in the southern hemisphere, that's going to be counterclockwise. That way you can harness it based off of the natural spiral that is also applied using Yannick von Doren's technique, and of course the Fibonacci sequence of like a snail. Start small, get bigger and wider on the way down, and use that geometry to your advantage. Every like quarter inch, start widening it out just a little bit more, and you can keep going in that spiral as you complete it down to the ground. And then depending on the shape, how far apart those loops are, and even how wide they are from the entry point, can have a direct concurrent electromagnetic Tesla field in his theory, because we're using this magnetic field to bond. It can then go out 6 inches all the way to 2 meters, depending on your antenna, depending on the shape, and depending on what you're using, even based off of copper or zinc as well. But you do want in the antennas, and especially those spiral antennas, to be face south by about 180 degrees to 170 degrees typically is what I find to be the most successful here in Texas. And you are harnessing from our South Pole the magnetic energy that it produces, because that's the stronger magnetic pressure that goes to the North Pole, and then a weaker field that goes back south. If you have an antenna with 2 different antennas, you can point them north and south as well. But if you just have one, having it point south will give you the best effects.
Gotcha. I was trying to figure out how we were electrifying water with hydroponics. I was like, my brain was not. I'm like, if you shock the water, you're going to kill your plants. I was trying. Yeah, I was throwing the toaster in your water.
Exactly. You don't want to shock it. If anybody shocks it, they're going to be doing more damage than good. The only way you may want to shock it lightly is if you want to find that natural magnetic current that it's creating. And if you shock it with a very light voltage, you're going to find the reading coming back is slightly higher. And that's the natural magnetic charge that you are getting from your antenna.
Cool.
You know, it's interesting when I wonder if this all started when the first lightning storm. You see a lightning storm, wow, what? Go out in a garden and everything's like exploded overnight with a nice, big, huge lightning storm. Then people came, hey, you know, lightning and all this, and let me try this into the plant. Let me see if this would work. I wonder if that's how it all started.
I would say back in the 1600s, when they had the creative idea to make these towers, they were shocking them more often, one. And they did have a lot of assistants that were expendable. So they did have individuals they could just pay very little to do things that were not covered by insurance whatsoever. Because did we have insurance? No reliability for the client. And business owners, scientists got away with a lot more testing, including having electroculture pieces. They had their assistants stand by in these electrical storms. So not the best ideas went into it. I would say before that, though, if we look at the Pythagorean theorem and 369 equations, understanding the Fibonacci sequence and how these geometry from Pythagoras is relatable to sound. We can run a soundboard with either sand or water on a plane and test out our frequencies and see the geometry appear in front of us. As we start understanding that, that will relate us back to, oh, we're transmuting this free energy from the atmosphere that goes in your hydroponic, soil, or other areas. It's going to do it in a way that is now Hertz frequently manifested or transmuted to be the most beneficial. Aiming to get your arpeggios is going to be really the best way you can make geometry-based antenna, or even using stones in their molecular shape as well.
So, Milk and Honey Heritage Farms calls more fruiting. What kind of results are we getting from electroculture?
Oh, 100 to 300 times faster growth rates. Again, 25 to 50% more flowering. We see diseases actually being eradicated from certain sites. The use of pesticide is eradicated completely. And you don't have to chemically treat anymore when the natural frequency in that area is now being in its best quantitative hertz frequency. And that will even affect the plants, animals in that area as well, depending if it's 6 inches to 2 meters for each device. If you're doing large acreage, Yannick Van Doorn or one of our specialists would be great to consult, so you can even have copper wiring connecting these antennas underground too.
So, like the singing, if you're a bad singer, would that really help with the sequence?
Well, it will take in any sound, and it's just an antenna. So it's taking in everything and transmuting it if you have the correct shape and geometry. So it doesn't matter about good or bad singing. Without an electroculture piece of equipment, though, or one of these simple spirals, one of the Lotchkey coils, magnetic antennas, you can actually test one plant in a room that has negative sounding music or with hertz frequency that is a negative charge and has bad effects versus one that has arpeggios or the hertz frequencies that are the most beneficial. And you'll see just from sound of plants in 2 different rooms or 2 different areas, it's going to have a quality effect on the plant.
So besides copper, what other metals work best for electroculture devices?
Zinc and gold are 2 that I really like as well, but I'm not
So
people
if
to
you
go
say
buy.
zinc, when you say zinc, do you mean like the galvanized coated wire? Like, is that what it is, or is that something different?
You can use galvanized. I find it doesn't always work as well, but conductive material that isn't as coated is going to have the best effect. If you coat it with a conductive like material or something that won't stop the conductivity, it's going to have the most beneficial effects. You can lightly cover it with, of course, rubber, with paint, with a sealant. It's just not going to go as far out in the ground.
Got it.
How tall should antennas be?
That's a wonderful thing we cover on our website, but they can range from actually only a few inches off the ground, and we have farmers that have been using them with dead trees up to 30, 40 feet tall.
Oh,
So
wow.
you can do range of size, and there's different atmospheric pressures that you are absorbing as you go taller and taller.
What are some of the common problems with electroculture?
I would say just reaching the people, it being a fad that's misunderstood. Without the research that we're presenting in Yannick Van Doorn's or my own studies, then people are just really guessing at if it could be good or bad for the soil. They don't know what direction the antennas should point, and they don't know about the materials they're using either. So it's all about the education, I think. And it's very easy to do DIY. Like that's what we provide with the DIY instruction hand guide is how can you do it based off the common methods of Lotchfield's coil, of spiral antenna, pyramid, which with a pyramid that is directly relatable to the Fibonacci sequence and harnessing the Fibonacci sequence, which works very well, and magnetic antennas. And if you are using magnets, weaker is always better. Our Earth's magnetic strength is very weak but covers a larger surface area, and if you use that for your devices, weaker magnets will create less of a pull of the transmutation of energy, and it will be able to flow naturally into the ground. If you have strong magnets, put them into the ground, but no, it's not going to allow your range to go out any further with a stronger magnet. The weaker it is, the larger your range of affected area.
And how should you install an antenna?
It's honestly something you can do with a bamboo pole, a stick. That's going to give you the easiest spiral and easiest test in a potted plant or by one plant directly. And that's just with copper wire that you can buy from the store, or another current-based wiring that will keep that charge and transmute from the antenna as you're pulling in this energy that's naturally around us.
So in the comments, Joe, I just put in a link. It's on Amazon. I'm curious, does Ethan think this is like nonsense, or does this look like something any one of us could use? They're like a pre-made copper coil on Amazon for the Electro garden. Like, are they what they say they are? Or
I mean,
versus trying to make them?
It's better to make them so you know, just like testing your soil, you know the fine-tune numbers, and it's all based off of golden ratio and Fibonacci sequence. The easiest path that the electrical current can take is the one that it's going to take most readily. So if whoever's selling it online isn't using that geometry or numbering as they're making these devices and they're just guessing, that's going to give you varied results. And that's what's probably out there right now, a bunch of varied results as we're getting this research together, showing people what it is, just like the Living Soil Food Web and the farmers out there, showing them what it's worth, how it can replace pesticides, how it can replace fertilizers, and be a method that is used to increase our capable gardening spaces.
So I'm trying to find Juliana's link here on Amazon, but I'm not finding what she has.
No worries. If you do go back to the website, we can look at the common methods and what they look like as well.
Okay.
It's like 6 from the bottom on my page, Joe.
Okay, I'm going to go to the Electroculture now.
Absolutely.
Oh, and one exciting thing to say about the documentary for anyone who knows Microbiometer, the testing company out there that's an app that tests your soil on fungal bacterial relationship, so anyone can know that at home in their backyard or in their farm when they're walking out there testing their soils. We've just got them as our official soil tester, and we'll be testing every farm and home garden that we work with in the Electroculture documentary.
Awesome.
And they'll be one of the resources that we have on our website shortly. But from Electroculture itself,
You get back to, hold on. Nope, wrong one. Sorry.
No worries, Joe. Do you all have any questions about the common methods, how it's used, or anything besides the materials?
I have all the questions. We could be here for hours. I'm just
It's an exciting new field, but again, we know just the foundations of it. I've been studying with Yannick for about a year now, and I've been really doing DIY electroculture for 5 years now, but finally understanding from a teacher for the past year has brought me to a much new level of understanding to be able to compare our geometry to our antennas and how it's created so we can know the ratios down the line.
Do you guys have that on your screen or no?
Mm-hmm.
Electroculture.life in a green box.
That's exactly from our pitch deck, and as you can see, it's the website itself. We sent it so people can understand, if they're interested, what electroculture is, and we'll scroll down. And if you want to keep scrolling, it goes over what electroculture is, and you all see how fruitaceous those plants are. Those are from different people that have sent in, of course, what they're documenting and how it's affecting certain veggies. The size of these plants is outstanding.
Look at that pumpkin.
Isn't that something?
Look at the cabbage. That's amazing.
Love it.
It's like increased blood flow. It just allows those nutrients to really soak into the plant and take form. And if it's at its healthiest, most capable, and it not genetically modified, then you'll see it becomes so abundant it may even surprise you, just like plants used to be. And with the problems and solutions, we try and cover that as much as possible. Common Ground does that for us, and we're very lucky that they're coming out this year. So on the high-end tail, we can provide a solution for farmers as they see it as another problem, using pesticides, using the glyphosates that are lethal. We know that now. And Bayer's they bought up Monsanto right after they went through all those legal lawsuits. And who's treating cancer and ASL research that Monsanto was getting people sick with? Bayer. So they make a great move in how it is a problem in our current system. And if we keep using these chemical-based fertilizers, you're destroying not just the cleanliness, but the genetic structure and what made the plant it initially was. If you keep modifying, toxifying, and poisoning that plant, its brothers, sisters that are growing around it, and you change the heritage genetic structure that now it has to protect itself from these fertilizers, that you are the one applying it and doing more damage than good. And with the solution, this one is just part of permaculture's vision. And I like to explain in electroculture especially, this is just one solution. You still need to understand the whole equation. But with electroculture, you can increase things. You can turn your hydroponic, your soil outdoors, or even indoor soil grow into a turbo engine that will now readily allow the plants to bond more rapidly with the cations and anions in the soil. That increases the bondage capacity rate, and your plants will be happier and healthier. But to create that battery life in the soil that you're also using and taking from, you need to add more compounds that are from our organic substrates that are the negatives. All the colloids are negative, and then adding the positive anions to come over that, or the positive cations to come in with that and bond more naturally. Like any turbo engine, you're cooking out that fuel 10 times as quickly and need to be able to replenish it. So it's going to speed up the process, but you need to realize you're going to have to add just a little bit more time to time if you speed it up in the soil. Especially if it's not full regenerative. If it's the capability isn't there for it to regenerate itself, and you're just leaching from an environment that's already damaged, trying to speed it up and make it go faster, when there's nothing really there, it may help and may really get things in your soil to start bonding, becoming focused in certain areas, but that's only for a certain portion of large land range.
Very cool.
And our setup's going to be coming out. I'm really excited to see how we're going to be teaching people, taking it to the next level to present. And when our documentary comes out, it'll be one of the biggest deals for showing our farmers what they can do in a free sense to increase their yields and become better than just average. And then this is part of the website traffic. This shows really how electroculture was gaining so much traffic because it's all around fad. So we came right before the fad and we got in before. And because of what happened with electroculture becoming popular, becoming such a fad, it's now taken off. And it's in a short amount of time too.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm. And that's the Google search, of course. Always look up your Google searches, and remember, with each nonprofit you work with, that's going to boost your Google search relationship moderation. If you are working with a local nonprofit that's a school, Google's going to put you in front of more parents. If you're working with a nonprofit that is geared around electronics and gaming, you're going to be put in front of gamers more often. So if you work with nonprofits for your target audience, then you can have Google show you more often. And of course, YouTube, as you know, YouTube's great in showing the people and bringing them more information. We need to use YouTube to our own availability, and always put your work out there for other people to see on YouTube, because you don't know, it could get this many views or more within such a short amount of time if you're in that fad space especially, and you're doing it in such a way that is not just profitable or fun, but research based. It's informative and true, because you have teachers and mentors also checking your work. And that's from our Indigo. We've already hit about 300% more than what we actually wanted in our first trial run. So we are very happy and set for the documentary at the moment, and connecting with our farmers, making sure we go through rounds of trials to get the best farmers to show to the public for each region around the world.
Jay had made a comment earlier in the comment to thank you, Ethan, for taking your plant experiments and backing it up with scientific studies, and that it's super awesome.
That's what we need to do. Everything has to be tested, or else we're just doing it based off a word alone, and that's only.
It was written a little more poetic than that, but that was the gist of it. It was a little higher up, so I apologize. I missed it, but it was thumbs up for Ethan.
And thank you, Jay, for those kind words, by the way. That's I can't see any comments when we're on this page, just to let you guys know. So thank you, Juliana, for
double fisting technology tonight. I got you.
Film production in progress.
And we are in the process of the documentary right now. Derek's working on a bunch of projects so people can have homemade antennas sent to them if they want to do the DIY. And that way they can do it in smaller containers, larger containers. The small setup goes over how it's applied and how to apply it to the soil, and then start doing it DIY for yourself even as well.
I like it.
I think a lot of people are into that right now. This is great.
I volunteer tribute if you need volunteers.
And then over our synopsis, again, it just covers as we're coming out and through our phases. We're in the phase where we're talking to the farmers now, getting their input and research, making sure they hit a set of standards that are not just in one group or one diverse area. We want to make it worldly, and everyone should have a say, see how it affects different areas of the world, and both from the top all the way to the bottom. Who's somebody that's starting and just having an effect their life, compared to Yannick van Doorn, who's been studying this for more than 20 years. And the details, it's all coming together still. We just got microbiometer. We're testing the Hertz frequencies and how they relate to sand and water on each geometric shape. So that way we can see if they're using different antennas with different shapes, what it transmutes into, and change not just it being beneficial, but how beneficial for what reasons. And then a little bit about our director. Feel free to look up his work, what he's done in the past. Derek Mulder's an excellent individual. He has my utmost respect in communicating with the people, bringing stories to them, and making them understand someone's personal perspective and how they're sharing their livelihood and coming across as a farmer. And in the Humble story, talking about how cannabis and hemp was marginalized for so long, and being able to tell that story to the community. This one came out a few years ago, and his new project with Electroculture, I'm thankfully on that project to bring to our audience as well. As you can see, some of the key players, feel free to reach out to them, look at them up on LinkedIn. And if you have any questions to see, oh, am I doing it right? Check out to these people as mentors, including myself. Who are you reaching out to for advice and checking your methods? So that way it's not just revolving around you getting frustrated with yourself. If you have questions, there are people out there. And we did plan on fall winter 2024, but we are switching that to next year. So that will be in the spring, if not early summer of next year. And we'll have our distribution first at Lamel. That's an excellent place for films to come out and discuss their work that then will take to larger audience and film festivals. But first having it for certain people to see, that will hopefully change their ideas and what we expect from the community when it comes to understanding permaculture and all the tools that affect that. And of course, feel free to check out our media channels, what we are with electroculture.life. We have another video out that just came out as of this year, and our document that came out with the Washington Post, an interview with Derek Muller as well. And you can help. If you want to skip this part, we totally can. I would say the best way to help at this point, since we have made our funds for the time being, try Electroculture, tell your friends, introduce them to electroculture.life. And if they're really interested, have them get a DIY or an antenna so they can try it at home too, or start making your own antennas and selling them to the community at a cheap price. So that way people can see it firsthand.
Like it.
I tell you what, Ethan, this was awesome. This was great. This has been 2 hours and it feels like 1 hour. There's so much we could still learn and beyond, because this is only the start of things. That's the way. This is a start, and you guys are a part of it, because you're not going to find this information pretty much anywhere. You really have to research it to find out. You have to really find it somewhere. It's like, where are you going to find it? And this is going to get out there more and more and more. It's because of you people like you researching and looking at it. Once it's going into Google and you see these people searching this electroculture, it's like, wow, you know what? Well, maybe we should put this out more. That's what Google's thinking. So, and you're doing a great job. Look, number one, what you showed before. So that's pretty awesome. But people have to start linking, checking things out, researching things, researching the soil. Life now is, and what life's going to be 5 years is going to be so much different, because it needs to be different. And that's very important. So we would like to have you sometime in the near future again, if we can, because I think it's very important that we really connect somehow, some way, and get more people interested and beyond and beyond and beyond. So, Ethan, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on. And 1 second, is there any more questions? Just make sure they're all in caps right now before we end. So Ethan, where do you think, between like microgreens, do you see something bigger going with microgreens than what it is right now? Do you see like?
Absolutely, Joe. I see it going much further. But again, with what you just said is the most essential, research. And as that research comes out and people understanding and educating themselves, or becoming educated by the teachers in their community who have been researching and taking on this work as their livelihood, or connecting to those researchers like yourself and what you've learned from your experience of being with these people one-on-one, what can they truly take and learn to make their lives more empowered and embittered with nutritional availability, cheaper cost of food. And with microgreens, we can do that. And electroculture, it can make it easier to grow. It's all about having the right tools for your body, what you're growing, where it's growing, and knowing it's a cycle that always keeps coming if you keep regenerating it, especially. And I'm very grateful to have teachers like Matt Powers and Elaine who have been doing it for much longer than me. If I didn't have their long backing research and ideas and knowledge, I wouldn't be able to truly take this to the forefront and be the ambassador with the Living Soil Food Web School or student of Matt Powers, teaching our elementary schools or even my personal clients and homeowners how they're affecting their wildlife, how they're affecting their community, and how it can serve them.
How do we get this more into the curriculum of schools? Like, kids growing up. We need to get this to our kids to start because they're our future.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know with every state and how everybody their curriculum is, but this information needs to get out to our kids first.
It truly does, and that's where I volunteer at. I volunteer with the second oldest elementary school here in Austin, Becker Elementary. We have a 10,000 square foot area with bees, with chickens. Our garden gala will be on April 20th, and we serve food to the school. We sell that food right back to the school so it can serve us as a nonprofit. We try and make sure that other people in the community can eat there. We have mushroom blocks that are donated from Central Texas Mycology so people can try the reishi, the lion's mane, the oyster mushrooms, but it takes someone who cares getting that set up. And if they don't, it's just going to fly by the wayside, right, Joe?
It's without a doubt. And Julianne, in your school, do you see, I know you're working on things with your school. Do you see a big change? What's going on there?
A lot of the schools here in our district do have community gardens. My 12-year-old is in a gardening class for STEM. So for sure, there's definitely, it's not quite 501c, nonprofit, those kind of things of that level. But there is definitely, we grow this, the kids get to eat it. If there's excess, it goes. When we were in New York before we moved, the community gardens fed the cafeteria. And then when the cafeteria was overwhelmed and couldn't use it, they would open it up to the public to come get free stuff. They would go to the farmers markets and the kids would volunteer to give their produce away for donations to go back and buy more seeds to put back into the community garden, etc. So it definitely, when you're in certain areas and certain districts that see the value in it, it's some amazing stuff because even, I don't know, I keep going back to the kids, but that's just kind of where I'm at. That whole, you're getting kids into the dirt, all those microbes of the dirt that make your immune system stronger. I just can't help but think that helps those kids become healthier human beings too, just by getting their hands in the dirt and in the soil and I say dirt, but soil, digging and getting in there, and those microbes are becoming part of them too.
Soil is the most important thing. That's the way I look at it. Without our oceans need to get clean because it's becoming more acidic, and our soil's terrible. Our food supply, our water supply, it's our life, it's our lifespan. It's kind of, but you know what? At least we're starting to understand it now. We could do something about it, but we really need to change the mindset, changing mindsets in ag. And that's potent. That's very important.
It is, and it's changing our children's minds. It's changing our voters' minds, who's voting, and making sure that they're accountable for what they're voting for. If we have it in our backyards and in our communities, how is it more talked about? How is it discussed? What the actual problems are even, and how locally we're solving them or saving. How much did you save on groceries this week from going to the local farmer's market in comparison to your local grocery store. There's even in Austin, as you said, the price for a steak. I was surprised because some of our grass-fed steak here in the city can be $35, $45 a pound. And that's just ridiculous that steak has gone up that much when you can locally source it for $15 to $20 a pound and get almost half when it may be even better quality locally if you know the tests have come back better and it's regenerative quality. There's even a benefit to those cattle being regeneratively restored in their environment and not being in the containers that they are with the agricultural restrictions that we have currently in place.
Well, look at the importance of cover crops. Cover crops are so important. And most of the people have no idea what they even are. I'm just going through what I see on the internet and people growing or farming. Like, wow, the benefits are enormous. I mean, wow.
And I think that's going to be one thing that's going to make regenerative certification a thing. If you are doing cover crops, that's going to be one of 5 or 10 different things that'll make you at regenerative agriculture status. And if you don't have that cover crop, then you're missing out. That is the truth, because you can sequester carbon, nitrogen, calcium, and other elements directly into the ground without ever adding it. Just fold it back over, and there's another nutrient source that is green compost and food for the bacteria.
So, Serena, over the years, I have always tilled, but I do not till anymore. No tilling. Too much carbon in the air, and you're not doing nothing. You're not doing anything to the soil. Every time you till, you're tearing it up. So stop tilling. Stop it. You got to add. If you have bare soil, you add stuff. It should always be covered or something. So that's important. You want those worms to work. Lasagna gardening. There you go.
That's a great one right there. And just making sure it's always covered by something, some kind of mulch, something that protects it. Because we protect our faces with sunscreen, moisturizer, cover up when it doesn't always look too pretty. We try and make sure that we are covered. And why shouldn't the soil be as taken care of when we think of taking care of ourselves?
So talking about Bokashi, can you tell everybody what that is?
Mm-hmm. Bokashi composting is fermenting compost. That's when you have it in a closed container, and very similar to beer, very similar to yeast and sourdough, you're fermenting that material to get the bacteriums to start multiplying at a much higher and faster rate. And in a closed, confined environment, you can break down your compost instead of in 6 months, all the way down to 1 month. And you can also fine-tune inoculants in your Bokashi. If you check out Chris Trump, he does it with EM composting using rice and vinegar with sugar, and being able to, just like baking, start it with the bacterium of your choice, what you're looking to create as a bacterium, fungi that will be growing from that environment, and providing it the sugar or necessary nutrients to start duplicating. You can increase that process with Bokashi, and that fermentation will really get it cooking and growing.
Now, if you had biochar on the bottom and you, Mr. Trump, Chris Trump,
the finalized inoculant after it's been cooked
and you
out.
put that on top over time. You got to see this whole big thing. I seen that video. I thought that was awesome, by the way. And then you put compost over it. That'd be some kind of lasagna layer, right in it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. If you had the mushrooms growing like that, then if you put compost on top, how would that work? Would that work?
It would, and it would just be another layer that you're adding to your silicates mixture. As you're layering your cations and anions, some are going to be negative, some positive, and some are going to bond more frequently with certain substrates in there. So with mushroom blocks and with mushroom inoculated logs or biochar that's been inoculated by molasses or blackstrap molasses and has a sugar content and nutrient content it's already been soaked in, then those will be layers in our lasagna garden, and they'll be specialized layers that we add at a specific time for a specific reason, or it'll become so natural and everyone does it that it'll be part of the regenerative language, and even landscaping companies will be using biochar to regenerate your landscapes. But that is a long ways from today.
Right. I really got to watch that film with Chris Trump again, because when he had that rice, which was al dente, and all of a sudden, then you see the mushrooms come up, that was pretty amazing.
It's coming out of every crevice, quite literally.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I'm like, I seen that, and that was all I seen. After that, I'm like, okay, what's next? What's next? What do you do next? But you guys should not be so.
I believe he's on to EM5 and EM6 now. So he's made multiple different methods that are inoculants for those to use for our fungi and bacterium substrates.
I thought I had something here. I won something from Matt Powers the other day. I thought that was really cool. I'm just really starting to get really into this. Because, I've been one of those guys that you wrote. Actually, I grew up next to a farm, and the guy was all about cow manure, steer manure, using manure, and he lived to 104. So I learned a lot of my principles off of him. But then you go off to the internet the last 20 years, everything's about fertilizer. And now I want to be helping out and making people grow food the right way, having the right nutrition the right way. Food is our medicine. These are for our kids. And this is our love letter for our kids, not just to grow our own food with fertilizer and blah, blah, blah.
Exactly. And it's ways we can regeneratively save the world. From cooling down our coastlines, we can get rid of bioplastics or plastics themselves by making them bioavailable with bacteria and fungi that'll break them down and chop them up into organic bits and pieces that aren't even microplastics at that point. They've been properly digested and neutralized back into the environment. But it will take some time to get that message across because the research just isn't 100% there yet. We're providing farmers with what research we can. We're providing them the answers that Elaine's been doing for 45 years. But how many farms are actually taking her methods into large-scale research potential? That's where this year, next year, we're making that happen on farms all across America and around the world, because it has to be proven before it can be taken into large-scale agriculture.
Well, Ethan, thank you so much for coming on today. This is a blessing to have you on. This is just so much information, and I hope everybody in the chat learned a lot. That's for sure. So thank you for coming on tonight, and we'll hope to see you soon.
My pleasure. Thank you both.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Take care, Ethan.
Take care.
Take care. It's so tough when you get people on and get them all. How do you get a person off? You can't. You want to keep talk. So we have the Serena joke of the day, and hope you guys really enjoyed that. That is so much information, you guys. And you guys become part of that study. That'd be great. I mean, go for it. Ricochet Project. There you go. Grow melons. I know you're growing lots of them. Imagine having these huge watermelons. I think that'd be awesome. So that was a great interview. That was so awesome. And I hope you guys go watch it back again and take some notes. There was even a YouTube note in there how to do something for your channel to expand it, by the way. But there was so much information from top to bottom. about everything. So here, the Serena joke of the day. Which plant and mushroom can be found in a jungle? Dun, dun, dun. Elephant ears and lion's mane. Thank you so much, Serena. And Serena, I'm sorry about your question before. When I'm on here, I don't see it. Anytime anything's posted, I do not see it. I don't see the chat at all. So I'm sorry about that. I read that wrong. When I glanced, I can't. You can't do both. So I'm sorry about that, Serena, for not answering your question earlier. But thank you guys. Thank you guys for being here. Hope you guys really enjoyed this. And yeah, we got Enid Graham on Thursday, and we're going to be on an Urban Gardener on Saturday, live at 2:00, I believe it is. Corky and I. So hope you guys could check out first Thursday show and Saturday show, and he's having Tuck on and James, so which is pretty cool, and you guys knew who I'm talking about that, and so it's good to have a Jersey episode, and great things are happening. We got great people starting to get lined up for April, and great things are happening on Grow Big TV. And Juliana, just stay on for 1 second after I
Yes, sir.
And thank you, Juliana, for coming on last second.
Absolutely.
I know you're exhausted, and your hour and a half became 2 hours and a half.
It's all right. I got you. It's all good. I just had to click off and put kids to bed. It's fine. It's good.
So everybody, I'll see you guys on Thursday. Thank you for watching Grow Big TV. And everybody on LinkedIn, thank you guys for watching. We appreciate it. And hopefully we just keep on coming together and helping each other out. That's what's so important right now. Okay, take care, everyone. Peace and love.